Have you ever had a teacher who has earned a special place in your heart? Mine is a strong, remarkable, caring woman who happens to be my elementary school teacher. Throughout my school career, many teachers have been liked and disliked, but this teacher was different. Certainly, many people have had teachers who have been memorable, but today I would like to point out my grade school teacher, Mrs. Kelly. Mrs. Kelly is the definition of strength and care for others. She has demonstrated this through her students, colleagues, family, and friends. Mrs. Kelly has taught me by her example of care for others. She would always make every child feel good about themselves. One time in third grade, I wore a pair of jeans that I thought didn't look good on me, and I was being self-conscious about wearing them. When I went to go ask her a question later that day, she said I looked good in them, and that made me feel better. Mrs. Kelly always wanted the best for her students. She worked with her students not only educationally, but personally. She helped me in many ways. Mrs. Kelly helped me open up and get rid of my shyness. Now I am friendly and get along with many kids in my grade. Mrs. Kelly Mrs. Kelly always had enough strength to deal with emotional and behavioral problems of her students. One example is when we had a girl move to America, and Mrs. Kelly helped her so much educationally and socially. Most of all, Mrs. Kelly helped her emotionally. Mrs. Kelly has recently reminded me of how to be strong by hearing her story. She is dealing with a major curveball life has thrown at her. About a couple months ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Mrs. Kelly stayed in school teaching until she physically couldn't. This was because she was going to begin her chemo treatment. To me, she is portraying strength by fighting the disease and not giving up. Mrs. Kelly has always been a ball of energy. There were so many times in the day where she would portray this trait. During snack time every day, she'd read a book to us. I remember how she would be so excited at the climax, and how she changed the tone and volume in her voice while she was reading. She always brought the book to life. Another example is when we would do certain projects, and she'd always make them fun, even if they were first thought of as or boring. Like when we were doing cutting and pasting projects. She would bring the mood up by playing music, reading a book, or simply just being herself. Lastly, I remember her science lessons. She would make everything seem so interesting, even if we were talking about sea sponge. I'm sure I'm not the only one of her students, that has thought of Mrs. Kelly as the best teacher in the world. Maybe this is because of her care for others, her strength, and her vigor for everything she does. She has proven herself to be one likable person. Perhaps the number of people supporting her throughout this time of need says something about that. I wish her the best of luck during her chemo treatment, and I'll always be there for her, just like she was when I needed a shoulder to lean on.